Very good morning to you all. First, may I thank NTUC President John for serving as the President of NTUC, and he'll be retiring after this Delegates Conference. He's the longest-serving president the NTUC has had. He's led the NTUC since 1997 through many ups and downs, crises, and good times. Retiring with him will be other Central Committee leaders who are also not standing for elections, including Finance Secretary, Brother Teo Ni, the Vice President, Brother Cyril Tan, and another Vice President, Brother Thomas Tay. All are passionate and well-respected leaders serving with workers at heart. John DePaver started in 1970 in the Accounts Department of United Engineers, which was a branch of the SMMWU, and later he became the Secretary General of SMMWU. Teo Yok Ni started out as a pharmacy technician in MOH. Cyril Tan started off as a technical storekeeper with VATA. Thomas Tay was a radio officer in 1970. All were elected by their fellow workers to serve as union leaders. Though they and several other Central Committee members are stepping down, they will remain an important part of our labor movement as mentors, as advisors, as guiding hands, sharing their experience and wisdom and a little bit of their gray hair with the younger leaders. So I invite all delegates in thanking them and in wishing them well. Since your last Delegates Conference 2 years ago, the global economy has recovered some, but it still remains troubled. Last year, 2010, we enjoyed a strong rebound thanks to our united and decisive response to the global financial crisis, and thanks especially to the sacrifices and the cooperation of the workers. So we had a bumper year last year. This year, we are on track to make 5% growth. But once again, the outlook has turned clouded and challenging. America is still slow. Unemployment come down a bit but remains high. The budget problems over the long term remain unresolved. Earning too little, spending too much cannot be resolved because there's political gridlock. One side refuses to cut spending, the other side refuses to raise taxes. And this is not going to be resolved. It's not just economics, it's politics, and will persist at least until the U.S. presidential elections next year. So America is slow in the water, but in Europe, the situation is more critical. It's a crisis of confidence. The difficulties showed up first in Greece and Portugal, but then they spread to bigger countries like Italy and Spain. And in fact, it's a problem with the European system as a whole, affecting the whole of Europe, including France, Germany, and the whole European system. The Europeans have no solution. They will probably find some way to muddle through this time. But even if they muddle through, I think there will be a drag on the global economy. That we can live with, but there's still a chance, a possibility, that things will go wrong, that there's a mishap, there's a loss of confidence, there's a disorderly run on one of the countries, whether Italy or Spain, and that will impact the whole world very badly, and including us in Asia. So we see dark clouds in Europe. In Asia, things look much better, but even in Asia, within this region, China is clearly slowing down. It's not like US, not like Europe. When they slow down, they mean go from 9% to 7+%. But it shows that no country is immune from these global problems. In Singapore, we can already see our own economy gradually losing momentum. You know on the ground that some companies have shorter work weeks, there are temporary layoffs, and the numbers are rising. And in the unionized sector, we expect retrenchments this year to be at least 20% higher than last year. And next year, nobody can tell. And this is one reason why MTI has forecast for next year growth of only 1 to 3%. For Singapore, that is a low number, but if we look ahead, 1 to 3% will not be so uncommon. It's not just because of the environment around us, it's also because of internal factors within Singapore. Because our economy is more mature, because our size constraints are binding on us, it's not so easy for us to expand, and because we are tightening up on the inflow of foreign workers, and that is going to constrain the growth of our companies and businesses. So in this tough environment, we've got to do our best to create jobs, to raise incomes, not just this year or next year, but on a sustained basis for the next 5, 10, 15 years. What do we have to do this? Externally, we have to support a pro-trade and pro-investment stance. Push for free trade with other countries, push for investments to flow between countries and from the developed countries to Singapore, or even from China and India to Singapore. These are the conditions where Singapore can make a living and can thrive, and this is what we have been working for. Recently, I went to the APEC meeting in Honolulu. The main issue we were discussing was the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP. What is it? It's a free trade agreement to link us up in Singapore more closely with other Asia-Pacific countries. We actually helped to start it. 4 little countries, Singapore, Brunei, New Zealand, and Chile. But we all had an interest in linking up Asia-Pacific, and we thought that we begin together and we launch this, one day the seed will grow and we will have something worthwhile. And indeed, it has worked, because now 5 more countries join to negotiate the TPP agreement. And these are not so small countries this time. Malaysia, Vietnam, Peru, Australia, and biggest and most important of all, the US. So if you get the TPP with these 9 members in, and Singapore in, and there's substance in it, so that trade can flow, investments can flow, businesses can increase, I think that's good for Singapore. And this year, 3 more countries asked to join: Japan, Mexico, and Canada. And Singapore supports this, because the more we can open up on trade and investment, I think the better we can earn a living for ourselves. After the APEC meeting, I went to the ASEAN Summit in Bali. And the agenda was again economic cooperation, and in particular, working towards an ASEAN community by 2015. An ASEAN economic community which will draw the immediate neighbors closer together in Southeast Asia, so that we can maximize our potential, so that we can compete with China, with India, so that people can see us on the radar screen, one bigger blob, and they will know there's some business to be done. And if they come to ASEAN, I think we can be confident a good part of that business will come to Singapore.